talking to myself again, but it's the only way.
Good morning, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith, and Supermac. Gibbo is on his way. He's just trying to sort his sound out. We'll let him sort that out, and then we'll bring him in. He's got his engineer working on it as we speak, so we will potentially bring him in now, and we'll see whether he's got it sorted. How are you, John? Have you got it sorted yet or not? No, the engineer is still struggling. We're not sure what it is, John. We can see you perfectly. We just can't hear you, unfortunately. John, I'll keep an eye out when you're in the green room and give us a thumbs up when you think you've sorted it, and I'll keep an eye out. Okay, good morning. Welcome along. Slightly earlier show today. Christmas, etc. getting in the way. Last minute shopping, Christmas parties, you name it. So we're here, as always, to talk about Newcastle United and what has happened in the last 7 days. And looking ahead to a couple of games over the festive period. Chip Shop Elvis, good morning. He says, with so much talk of who's coming in next month, would you guys agree that trophy signings are not what we need right now? We need players who will fight for the cause. What's your thoughts on that, Mal?
Well, yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. That you need players to deal with this situation. And good heavens above, trophy players, as I understand the phrase, won't win you anything. You won't survive with them or whatever. You know, Newcastle have just played Manchester City. There's not a single trophy player in that Man City side. You know, they are all in it and putting absolutely everything they've got into it individually as a team. So trophy players, no. They don't wash anymore. Never have done really in the game. But we do need players who are going to fight and scrap for a couple of years, because that's the situation that we're in. And I really do feel that that if we can just get in half a dozen players in January that really and truly fit the bill for the situation that Newcastle find themselves in, and it's a fight and it's a scrap. They're short of goals, they're short of goal making, they're short in midfield, pushing forward, and of course very short in defence, letting goals in. So you need that half a dozen to sort of bolster defence, midfield, and up front. And that's not an easy task to be done. January is a tricky old month to do transfers in. But first of all, survival in the Premiership, and then we look to improve from there. But survival has got to be the key word right now, that we stay up in the Premiership this season.
Yeah, I would agree, Mal. We talked about this at the Dog and Parrot, didn't we? Yeah, before and after the game, and it's fight as you need. And I've seen a couple of interviews with ex-players. I mean, sometimes they drive you up the wall, but I think Roy Keane made a really good point at the weekend where he said Newcastle are, supposedly interested in the likes of Lingard and Martial, and he says steer clear of Martial. He says that guy won't roll his sleeves up and get stuck in a relegation battle.
Absolutely.
He said. He says you need players who are going to fight, and it's exactly what you and I have said.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. That trophy players that they're just not required, because apart from anything, it's the atmosphere that they cause on the training ground, in the dressing room. It's not a good atmosphere, and ideally you want to get the whole squad all pointing in that right direction and going for it, giving their all in the workings of it. And trophy players don't do that. They're called trophy players now. We used to call them fancy Dans.
Yeah.
And now and again they come good, on a sunny day, but when it's freezing cold, they don't fancy that too much.
No, definitely not. Thanks very much, guys. Yep, it's got a bit more to the Christmas jumper. There you go. There's Gizmo. I guess people were asking the other day, Malcolm, this is a one for you. Is Die Hard with Bruce Willis, is it a Christmas film?
Not really. Oh,
no,
no, you don't think so either?
No, I don't think so, no.
No, I don't. Are they putting that on then?
Well, no, it's a question people tend to ask. Is Die Hard a Christmas film? It's set at Christmas. So, no, I mean, when you think of Christmas films, you tend to think of It's a Wonderful Life or, Bad Santa or The Grinch or, stuff like that. But you
Home Alone.
Home Alone, yeah, it's another classic. It's another classic. So, it's interesting. There's Malcolm's view on that. I know somebody was asking that in the chat the other day. Let's look back at the last set of fixtures, Mal. We knew it was going to be difficult. We got nothing out of it. But there was, the last couple of games in particular showed two sides of Newcastle, I think. Well, let's go back to Leicester. The Leicester game was a complete collapse, a capitulation. The Liverpool game, there was fight in the old dog yet, and a great goal by Shelvey, a decent performance. And against Man City, maybe it's harsh saying men against boys, but it was a world-class team against a team that was playing together 6 years ago in the Championship and hasn't had any new additions.
And I was sat just a few yards behind the dugouts, and so I had a very clear view of Pep Guardiola, and he was making it quite clear he was not happy with the performance of Man City. And in fact, he said so afterwards. So I think that everybody involved with Newcastle should take note of that. He considered that a very poor performance by Man City. So let's not get carried away at St James's Park, to say, oh, well, we put up a fight or anything. He was not a happy man. But you're not going to survive against sides like Man City if in the first 5 minutes you're literally giving them a goal start, and that's what happened. It was quite amateurish as to how it happened. People say, well, Clark ducked. A player on the near post, the only time he ducks is if somebody's shouting for it behind him.
Yep.
And so I can't believe that Clark ducked without getting that shout.
Dubravka called for it.
Right. Well, he must have done, yes. And if you call for it, you just go, poof, get it. And wrap your arms around it and make sure it doesn't escape. But Dubravka, in having shouted, Clark ducked, Dubravka just wasn't ready. He found it all quite unexpected. And I was left scratching my head, to be honest, as to how two professional players in the 6-yard box can make such a mess of a cross coming in. And it was a nothing cross as well, in all honesty.
Yeah, it was. John, morning, mate. Got your sound issues. Well done to the engineer.
Good morning, my friend. Thank you.
Good morning, John. Yes.
The only thing that kept me going.
We'd rather that your engineer was on than you, to be honest, just to brighten
Thanks very much, pal.
the scenery.
So would I after Man City. I only come on to see Steve Scanzi, that's all.
There you go, John. There you go.
Hey, top of the pops, that pal.
It's the only thing I've got red. It's the only thing I've got red and white in my house. That's all I'm.
Hope so.
But we're just talking about the last two games, John. I mean, Liverpool, there was a bit of fight in the old dog, wasn't there, down at Anfield? Great goal by Shelvey. Newcastle played well, but Man City, we came a cropper against a really good team who, to be fair, by Pep Guardiola's standards, weren't playing up to scratch.
Well, we did, and I heard what Malcolm said there, and that's absolutely correct. I mean, we reverted a little way towards playing like we did against Leicester, where we were going to get slaughtered. The first goal was so stupid, it was untrue. You wouldn't say that on a Sunday morning league. It was absolutely nonsense. What we've got to remember is what Malcolm had already said. Pep said it was a very poor performance by their standard. He left 2 England stars out, Grealish and Foden, for ill discipline prior to the game. He had been involved in a scare with COVID, so there was plenty of disruption in their camp, and yet they strolled it against us. Without playing well, they strolled it against us. And we were back to looking what we are, which is a poor side in dire need of help. And if you look at it, since we had the win, we've had 3 shuddering defeats. We've let in 11 goals in those 3 games, 4 against Leicester, 4 against Man City, 3 against Liverpool. We've let in 41 goals in 18 games this season. That is how bad this side is. And we're only still in touch, points-wise, and not cut adrift, because the other sides haven't played. Every sidebar leads have games in hand over Newcastle. Burnley have a point on Newcastle plus 3 games. They've got 3 games in hand. So we are in dire trouble, and we've got to get this right as soon as we can. And we can't just sacrifice the Manchester United game and hope to pick up on the good run after that. We've got to try desperately to get some points against the top sides, because we just don't do that.
Right.
No.
Can I just throw something at you? I'd like to know what the response of you both is. Okay, guys. Well, we're playing the top of the table this coming Saturday, and what I'm planning to do is to play 2 centre halves and 2 wingers as fullbacks.
Horrified, absolutely horrified, Malcolm.
And that's what happened.
Yes, it was, and I was horrified.
There were 2 defenders on the pitch in Newcastle colours.
It was ludicrous.
I mean, I was distraught before the game when I saw the team, because if we ever know, weren't we chuntering on during Steve Bruce's reign about 2 wingers being picked at fullback? And this was even more so because they were being picked at wing back then in a 5. They were picked as orthodox fullbacks here. And not only did Clark and Dubrovka make an absolute dog's dinner of the first goal, and these were international players making a dog's dinner, and they're both at fault. It's just to what degree is one more than the other. But after that, for me, the 3rd and 4th goals came through Richie losing his man on the back post when the crosses come in. And he was so furious on the 3rd one, he kicked the post as the ball went in, because he realised the guy that Mahrez had run off him. Then Raheem Sterling did it for the last goal. He is not a fullback, doesn't pretend to be one, has never been one in his career, and he's the wrong side of 30 now. So he's not going to learn to play defensively as a fullback. I mean, I don't want to see Clark and Richie picked in this side against Manchester United or the foreseeable future in the positions that played the other day, because Clark has made mistakes before. Goodness gracious, the last time he started, he lasted 9 minutes against Norwich before being sent off because of a mistake. So he's got to go out the side, and Richie cannot play left back. Whether you want to play him on the wing is a totally different matter, but he cannot be picked at left back anymore. How many times have we got to get burnt before we learn our lessons?
Sure, and there were 2 defenders on the bench.
Oh, yes.
So,
absolutely.
So 4 defenders, and surely better to play a centre half at fullback.
Yes, which you can do with Kraft or Shaw in there. And what's disturbed me a little bit is why we've talked, guys, about what we need in January, and just about every position's being announced, from defenders, obviously, to a creative midfielder, to a backup striker, because we don't score a lot of goals and we've just got Wilson. We've never had mentioned the left back. We've never had any suggestion that we need to buy a left back.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious me. Yes, I'm hopeful that Lewis will do a little bit, but he's injured at the moment. But we haven't got left backs. What are we doing about the left back? How are we going to solve that problem? Because it is a problem, guys.
Yeah. It's
serious
a big
problem. And there aren't many left-footed left backs around.
No, definitely not. Chris Lockie asks, Mal, who would you like to see come in? I mean, you and I were discussing this before we came on air about Roy Keane at the weekend, saying that Newcastle should steer clear of Martial because he's not the kind of player you need in a relegation dogfight. And I would have to agree. But who would you like to see come in?
Well, I'm not going to name names for the simple reason that I don't want to sort of muddy what are already very difficult waters for the manager. January is a really difficult time when you're struggling to bring in the right kind of players. And if the right kind of players aren't available for transfer, then get the right kind of players in on loan, if that's possible. Man City have got players who they would quite happily see go out on loan. And so I hope that there was quite a long chat between the two managers after the game as to what Newcastle could benefit by doing some dealing with Manchester City. It's you can name players all day long. It's all for naught. It's down to how the manager sees it, what he's going to do, who is available. And January is so difficult. Personally, I'm looking at how it should be organised to see Newcastle between January and the middle of May reach survivals in the Premiership. That's all I'm looking for. And then in the summer, then you can start to work and build and change and do whatever you want. But in January, just get the right kind of players in who are going to do the job with those with the right attitude, and there are players who can't get in the Man City side, but they will come in and benefit Newcastle hugely. There are fallbacks there for a start.
The difficulty is, Mal, and you said it before, and I think the difficulty is that if you go to one guy and say, would like you to join either on loan or permanently, unless you give that guy a guarantee of the other names that's going to come in, if you're a single defender, would you want to go into that defence on loan and put your reputation on the line when you know who's going to be on both sides of you? You're going to say no, thank you, unless you can say that to the defender, to a central defender, here's another central defender and here's a fullback we're bringing in at the same time. Oh, okay, I'll have a go. But if you're a central defender wanting to come into that back four, at the moment, you would say my reputation mightn't be good enough to get me in the club I'm at the moment. It's going to be a darn sight worse if I've got 6 months playing in that Newcastle defence. That's one of the problems. I mean, it looks as if Trippier could be a done deal from all we're hearing. Funny enough, on Martial, which was brought up by Steve, and we know what Roy Keane said, and a scout I'm very close to who has no axe to grind at Newcastle, the minute he read that, gave me a phone call and said, Gibbo, whatever you do, don't touch him because he hasn't got the stomach for a relegation fight. If you're mid-table or above, he might be able to turn on the skills and do a little bit for you and look okay, say at a Leicester City or whatever. But in the Newcastle blood and thunder, roll the sleeves up above the armpits, he will not do that for you. So I was warned exactly the same.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's a blood and guts and thunder situation, and it needs fighters. You can have the greatest players in the world. You could put Messi in the middle of it, and he'd look a bad player right now. The way Newcastle are playing,
Messi in a mess.
Wouldn't be able to change anything.
Yeah, I mean, it is very difficult. But the one thing we all agree on, guys, that if nobody comes in to help this lot, we're down, man. We're down. If somebody doesn't come in, we're down.
Because if you get that right sort of 5 or 6 faces, names, voices into the dressing room, all of a sudden it sparks some of the local players who are already here. It sparks them off, and everything becomes alive. It's a different situation, and a different attitude out on the field.
I'll tell you one thing, Malcolm. Malcolm, in your time, I'm just thinking on the hoof. When is the last time we have seen a Newcastle defence look so poor and so easily dismantled as this defence looks? I mean, 41 goals in 18 games.
Yeah.
It looks what it is, doesn't it? It looks. I mean, it's not even a mid-table championship defence.
No, it's not.
No, it
and I
isn't.
mean, Clark.
It isn't.
Remember, Clark was brought in as a backup player by Rafa, and he's ended up playing so many games. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, obviously, we're talking about players coming in. Which 6 players would you jettison out? John, I'll come to you because I did ask Malcolm the original question. Which players would you jettison out of the squad if we could get 6 signings in? Who would you like to see out the door?
What I was going to say first and foremost is that we would have to have guys in, else we leave ourselves, bad as they are, terribly exposed. But I mean, I think I would have to say Richie is one of the 6, despite everything that's going for him, because I don't think he's going to get in this side as a winger. Because you've got Fraser and because you've got Murphy and you've got everybody else and you've got Sam Maximum and you've got Almiron, I don't think he's going to get in this side as a wide player. And as a fullback, bless him, he was going to go to Bournemouth several times. Let him go. He's been a terrific servant for us with a very good attitude. Let him go to his spiritual home back to Bournemouth. He ain't going to do it here. I mean, I would let Clark go. I would let Clark go. I would let Shaw go. I would even let Lascelles go. That's how badly off we are. That's how badly off we are, believe you me. And, if you could get any money for Almiron, at the moment, he'll do you a job because he'll run his socks off and he'll work hard and he's got a good attitude, but he hasn't got a football brain. And as Malcolm said many times when we've had private conversations, if you open the door, he'll run down into Northumberland Street and go across the Tyne Bridge because he just keeps running till he collides with something, whether it's a back or the goal. So, if you could get money there. It's very difficult, guys, because, you can turn that question on its head, Steve, and say, which people would you keep? Yeah, and outside of saying Wilson and possibly San Maximum because of what he can do, and possibly Dubravka, despite the stupidness of the first goal because he makes some good saves, outside of those 3, how many people would you keep? I'll turn a question on its head here. Would you buy Willock again for £22 million? No. I don't think so.
What we're seeing now is why Arsenal let him go.
Oh, without a shadow of doubt. Without a shadow. The poor lad looks shot. The only thing I've got going for him is he's 22 and we saw what he can do if he's unleashed in the right position. He's not a sitting midfielder. Don't ask him to do particular jobs sitting there in defensive jobs. He's got to be the guy that gets on the end of stuff. He's got to do a Terry McDermott thing, arriving late in the box, etc. You can't stick him in a 2 and say pick up in midfield and protect the back, because that is not his game and he's out his depth. And he looks completely shot in confidence. You can only hope that if he was unleashed to go in support of the front guys and the weight was taken off his shoulder by a few results, etc., that he might do a Joe Linton and suddenly blossom again out of nowhere. Right. Because Joe Linton is a great example Now, you asked me what 6 to go, Steve, and I never considered Joe Linton. A month and a half ago, he would have been the first person I was mentioning. But since he's dropped back and the game's happening in front of him, instead of him playing as a 9 in the box, which he cannot do, he's looked a different player.
He has.
You know, you've just got to hope that maybe something like that will happen with Willett. Because at the moment, you bear in mind that we spent all our money. That's why we made no sense. We spent all our money on Willett, and it infinitely hasn't worked.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't at all. Get your questions in. We'll try to get through a few more before the end of the show. Malcolm, what's your thoughts on referees and VAR decisions, says Tom? Newcastle are getting this season. I mean, talk of Newcastle putting an official complaint in against the Premier League for some of the decisions we've seen, especially in the last few weeks.
Yes. To be honest, I'm not surprised. Because of the financial situation at Newcastle, the Saudi Arabian ownership, it's not just a connection, it's total ownership. Everybody else got jumpy. And what I'm thinking is that with the footballing authorities, they were all over the place about this and they were very anti, and then all of a sudden it did happen. It seems to have affected the referees as well. That football is, they're on a downer against Newcastle United, and it looks to me as if it's affected the referees in the same way. That referee on Saturday in the first half, a Manchester City player only had to put his arm in the air, and the referee blew his whistle and gave a free kick. It happened every single time a blue arm went up in the air, and I could see the frustration in the Newcastle players because they were saying, "Well, the fella's just done worse on me. Where's the free kick?" And the referee was just saying, "Play on, play on, play on," when it was against Newcastle, and I thought, well, come on, referee, you know what you're doing here. This isn't by accident, and I really did feel that the referees in the last 3 matches have got a bias against Newcastle, and I absolutely abhor anything like that in this wonderful game of ours, because when officials go one-sided, the game's dead. It's finished. It doesn't matter what you do on the park. It doesn't matter how well you play. If you've got the officials against you, they'll kill you off. And I'm just shuddering at the moment, thinking, I hope this is not a refereeing conspiracy.
I mean, the refereeing has been shocking on the penalties, and I think Newcastle have every right to complain. I'm not saying miraculously we would have beaten Man City 5-4 if we'd got a penalty, but you never know what it might spark off, and you've got to be even-handed, and we have been diabolically done to. But I've got a feeling, that refereeing standards right across the board have gone hopelessly down. You saw Klopp in a thunderous game with Spurs, which was an absolutely magnificent game of football, of blood and thunder football, complaining regularly from the touchline. I think the standards and the use of technology hasn't improved the situation. It's either technology is either ignoring, is not being asked for, not being used, or is just backing refs' decisions, even when that decision is blatantly wrong, like turning down a penalty, and it's not being, wait a minute, it is a penalty. It is not happening, and Newcastle have every right. Life is tough enough for Newcastle at the moment with the run of fixtures they've had, for them to then get this nonsense on top where everything's ignored has been absolutely ludicrous and bad. I'm not suggesting that it would have turned any of the 3 last results against Leicester, Liverpool and Man City in our favour at the death, but That's got nothing to do with it. What you deserve, you should get. And Newcastle United infinitely didn't.
No, it's certainly one to keep an eye on, and let's see how the officials deal with this when we play at Manchester United. Big shout out to our sponsors as always, Spider VPN for all your internet security. Google Spider VPN, they come up at the top of the search list. They are the boys to trust, will protect your computer, protect your passwords, protect everything on it. Google Spider VPN. Skipsandbins.com, big thanks to them as well. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy, contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. And the boys at Skips and Bins are getting ready for Christmas. There he is, sliding down the bank in a skip. I wouldn't advise you doing that though. That's a health and safety warning from Steve Wraith and NUFC Matters. Do not get a skip and slide down a bank. It will only end in tears. Thanks also to L&G Family Funeral Directors, who you might need if you use a skip to slide down a bank. 01913897245 is the number to call for them. Also, Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD, hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.thegohd.com. And Arcot Interiors back as well for a couple of months, based on Heaton Road. If you want a kitchen, get in touch with Arcot Interiors. They can be easily found on the interweb. Big thanks as well to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, the lads who run our website, nufcmatters.com, and Jab Signature, who I am going to see today. Looking forward to seeing you, John. jabsignature.co.uk, the guys who make our flyers. If you want to subscribe to the channel, hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner. We've got another 120 subscribers this week, so thank you and welcome. Hit the thumb up to like the video, click share to share to your other social media, and drop into the comments box to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans. Hitting that thumb up does do us the world of good, so please, it's just under the video, it's free to do. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and the rest. Usually goes up 24 hours after the show goes out live. And NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk. The matchday bucket is active. Just chip anything you can into there virtually. It's a good time to give over the Christmas period. And last chance for Christmas shopping. The Peter Beasley event is still available on Voucher and Groupon. So get your ticket orders in on Voucher and Groupon for that. And don't forget, there's a whole host of books, including my book, Pavel's, and Lee Clark's, available at my website, badboysbooks.net, or in the Backpage shop in Newcastle. And COVID and Boris permitting, Malcolm and I shall be at the Dog and Parrot for the Manchester United game. We will only be there pre-match. We only do pre-match on a nighttime game. 6 o'clock for the pre-match talking against Manchester United, which is this coming Monday after Santa has been. So get yourself along to see us. It is free entry. Kids are welcome, and they do some smashing food and beer as well. So get yourself along. Okay, yes, plenty of comments are coming in. Darren says, out of the Man United and Everton games, I think we will get at least one more point by the end of the year. You're fairly optimistic there, mate, but you never know. Where did I get the jumper from? Primark a couple of years ago. That's where I got it from. It's a good one, and it's lasted a while. Jano says, nothing like a bit of positivity, and this is nothing like a bit of positivity. Geordie Toomba Life is having a discussion with you here, Mal. He says he had no other option but to play Murphy and Ritchie.
No, wrong. No, there were two defenders on the bench.
Kraft and Shaw.
Kraft and Shaw. You play Kraft at right back, Murphy in front of him, and he could have played Clark at left back, put Shaw in the middle, and that would have been a back four made of four defenders. And Ritchie has proved time and again that he is not a defender. He loses people, they get round the back of him. And so to me, it's cruel to ask somebody to keep playing out of position where he's not comfortable. And Ritchie is not comfortable in that left back position. Plus the fact what you're losing is what he gives you when he's up the front. that he's a terrific crosser of the ball. So is Murphy, but they're not getting forward into those positions to get the crosses into the penalty area. And in the end, that you've got a centre forward in Wilson who is desperate for crosses, and there's nothing coming in. And so, and if people are surprised why Newcastle find themselves in the league position they're in, just think about that. A centre forward who's not getting any crosses in, and that's what he feeds off of. The guys who could be knocking crosses are playing back there at fullback. Come on, it's no mystery. All the evidence is right there in front of us. And why are we letting goals in? Because 2 of the 4 defenders can't defend.
Mm-hmm. 4 of the 4 defenders can't defend.
Well, yes. Okay, John. Yeah, I somewhat underestimated.
Gibbo, Rachel wants to ask you and Mal a question. Do Malcolm and John think we need a goalkeeper in January?
Great question, because Dubravka's had a huge reputation, and at one stage, probably in the summer, because we don't lose games in the summer, there's a lot of people thought we had 3 half-decent goalkeepers in Dubravka, Darlow and Woodman. I think Newcastle, if they get good defenders in front of them, we could get by and stay up with Dubravka in goal. But long term, if this side's going to improve, we will need a better goalkeeper and a more consistent goalkeeper. There's absolutely no question about that.
Probably not in January.
I look at the whole team, guys. I look at the whole team and say, how many of these would get into a mid-table team or above? And I'm including in that Wilson, who I don't think has been on great form recently. I don't think Wilson, I know his limitations on what he's been allowed to, what he's had to feed off, etc. But great number 9s on occasions take a game by the scruff of the neck and make something for themselves. I'm not certain that Callum is that type. I think Saint-Maximin can flatter to deceive. The end product is very limited. We're talking about Dubravka. So our very highest players, and albeit they're probably suffering by the dross that's around them, but it is possible to improve on every single position in this current Newcastle United team.
Yeah, Jody Toombelay says, Malcolm, I think you need to listen to Howe after the game. I'm not saying we're playing for the right players. I'm not saying we are playing the right players. I'm just explaining what Howe said. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, I think.
What's the point of listening to Howe after the game? I'd like to hear what he's got to say before the game and how he's setting up a side. It's all very well sort of looking back on a situation, but he obviously didn't get the team right. I don't think he's got any of the teams right. I know he's short on defenders and to do with different players, but he's taken the job and he's got to deal with what there is at hand. That's the job of a football manager. And so what he says isn't really of great interest to me. What is of interest is what he does, how he selects and how he organises and what tactics he sends his players out with.
Yeah, okay. Let's look ahead to Manchester United, guys, which is our next game, of course, and that takes place on the 27th, 8 o'clock kickoff, live on Sky Sports. Fernandes, Lewis are confirmed as long-term absentees. Still no sign of Paul Dummett being available. Manquillo, Kraft, who both missed the Man City defeat due to illness, while John Joe Shelby was, of course, listed as injured. It remains to be seen whether those three will make it for this game. Isaac Hayden is out though. He serves a one-match suspension after picking up a fifth yellow card of the season. Manquillo and Callum Wilson are one booking away from the same fate. As for Man United, Ralph Rangnick's side haven't kicked a ball since December the 11th. Obviously, COVID has stepped in the way and cancelled their fixtures, Brentford and Brighton. As for the referee, it's becoming a farce, this really. But Craig Pawson is fresh from his starring role as VAR man for the Man City home game. The official from South Yorkshire last took charge of a Newcastle game last April when Newcastle's Steve Bruce's side shared 4 goals with Spurs. Pawson also refereed the corresponding meeting with Manchester United at St James's last season, which of course Manchester United won 4-1. VAR, which is constantly switched off at Newcastle unless it's a decision that goes against them, is run by Peter Banks. And as I say, live on Sky Sports. And wow, this game really is another uphill battle for me, I think, guys. Malcolm, how do you see this one going?
With great difficulty. It's going to be a real challenge. Manchester United, they've got a lot more talent than is actually being shown by the way that they're playing. And so is it a good time to play them? Well, it could be worse. But I still think that they've got way too much for Newcastle. Man United, they will score goals. Can Newcastle score against them? I'm not confident that Newcastle can score against anybody the way they're playing at the moment. And you can understand the players getting that feeling that if they go 1-0 down, then all of a sudden the road has just gone full, like uphill, like a mountainside, and so confidence wanes. Football is very much a confidence game, and if that confidence is wavering all the time, or even non-existent, you're in trouble. And I didn't see much confidence at all against Man City on Saturday. Newcastle playing at home, okay, they're top of the league, but so what? You're playing at home. Get out there and do your level best. And but when you're struggling to score a goal and when you're letting goals in for fun, that doesn't help the confidence whatsoever. So over at Old Trafford, I cannot see Newcastle getting anything out of it at all.
Yeah, I mean, obviously playing Man United away is one thing, but playing them at Newcastle, hopefully fans will still be in, Gibbo. You know, that does play its part. Fans do play their part. And if Boris is going to lock us down, you know, St James's won't have the sellout crowd that we're anticipating. Will that make a difference, Gibbo?
Make a huge difference. I think the only single asset I can give Newcastle United at the moment is the magnificent support. We've always talked about Newcastle having great support, and that's because they have. But since we've got rid of the Ashley and Bruce scenario, which was making the crowd divisive, everyone is united behind the club, the new owners, the new managers, and yes, the players, to try to keep Newcastle in this league. And whether it's 50,000 at home or 3,000 sellout travelling fans to away matches, the shouting, the support for Newcastle as they've been losing these last 3 games and right through to the final whistle have been nothing short of absolutely magnificent. And the biggest hope and the biggest single asset Newcastle United have got at the moment is not Eddie Howe on the touchline. It's not Callum Wilson or St Maximum or Dubrovka. It's the fans. That the fans might drag Newcastle United over the finish line. Take them out And that this is the big worry of what might happen to Newcastle with COVID. And really, that's such a vexing situation. And there's so many possibilities there that we are in the hands of that. If we're going to play behind closed doors, which was a great thing for Steve Bruce, would be a horrendous thing for Eddie Howe. We have got to have the crowd there to give us any sort of hope. As for Manchester United, my first reaction to that is absolutely no chance, because that's the way Newcastle's been playing. Another defeat's on its way. But if I'm going to be positive, and I desperately want to be positive, then all I can say is that the current Manchester United are not Manchester City or Liverpool. They're nowhere near that class of the two sides that have just absolutely steamrolled us. They're more like Leicester City for me. And I know they beat us 4, but that's because we were absolutely diabolical, even by our own standards that day. But for me, they're a little bit like Leicester in as much as they have great attackers who on a good day can take you to bits, but their defence is not the best in the world, and I stick Maguire in that. And I think the goalkeeper, who was much maligned a little while back, De Gea, has produced saves that has kept them in games at the moment, because I'm not keen about the two centre-backs. And you don't get the feeling that they'll run away with a match by 4 or 5 goals every time they play. You always feel that Man City and Liverpool can do that. So this can be something of a remote opportunity, because somewhere Newcastle United, if we are to stay up, have got to pick up points where they're not expected to get them. If that doesn't happen, we go down. And I know the easier games are to come after Man U, but we can't waste Man U and say that's a free hit. It doesn't matter if we lose 4 or 5. The goal difference is going south at a rapid rate of knots. And there's always the possibility that Manchester United, who under the new manager have been winning more 1-0 than 5-0, that you can just stay in a game long enough and you might get something out of it. We've got to go with that sort of attitude. They are not as dynamic as the last two sides we've played. They're more like Leicester. Forget about their attack, because they're going to give us huge problems. Anybody will give us problems with our back four. But have a look at their defence and say, can we get something there? And how is supposedly and is a front foot coach. So let's see if we can rattle the cage if a few of them at the back, because we know they'll rattle our cage. But we've got to look at trying to get something out this game. I don't fancy us to achieve it, but somewhere along the line, guys, we've got to start getting points against clubs that are in the top half of the table, because we're not going to stay up. If we write off these games, we're not going to stay up this season. So we've got to start looking at it.
Yeah, Everton, of course, is our final game of the season. Final game of the 2021 part of the season. We play them again live on TV, this time on Amazon Prime, 7:30 kickoff. Again, no surprise, the away end sold out. Graham Scott is referee in that game, and Lee Mason is on VAR. So before we finish, Malcolm, prediction for both games, please. What are you expecting out of these two games?
Man United, I think Newcastle will. I just can't see them scoring. That's the problem. That really is the problem. I think Man United will win 2-0.
Okay.
Go on the other, and you want the other game as well?
Yeah, because we're going to have a week off, Mal. We're not going to be back until the new year.
Yes, of course. And Everton, they're struggling. If Newcastle are going to get points before the year's out, it'll come at Everton. I'll take a draw at Everton, 1 each.
Okay, that's the same prediction as Paul Gibson. He's gone 3-0 Man U, 1-1 Everton. John, your predictions?
Good question. I think it'll be a narrow single goal defeat against Man U. Although there is a genuine opportunity there. We could get it. I mentioned this last week, guys, but we could get Rafa the Sack because we play him at Goodison and then we play him up here before February's out. How ironic would that be? I think we'll get a point at Everton. I think we'll get a point at Everton and then rattle into the other games which are winnable. We could win at Everton. But I think a single goal defeat, whether that's 1-0 or 2-1 against Man United, and a draw at Everton. 1-1, which is what Malcolm said, I think would be the favourite scoreline. I still can't see us keeping a clean sheet. Sorry, guys.
No.
Yeah. What about you, Steve? What do you think?
I can't see us beating Man United. I think we'll get a draw in both games, though. I think we'll get a draw against Man United. I think it'll be a 1-1 draw, and I think there'll be a 1-1 draw at Everton. 2 points, that would do me for Christmas. I'll be happy with that. Slightly more optimistic than you guys, but I'm going to go for 2 draws.
Well,
lads,
if you get that, Steve, you've got to keep that Gansey on until mid-June. Because it's a good luck one.
lads, have an absolutely fantastic Christmas. Thanks for everything this year. I mean, all the viewers have said exactly the same. Thanks for all your kind messages. Enjoy the week off. I'll see you the first week in January for the next NUFC Matters with you two guys. Take care. Enjoy the festive season.
And Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas. Have a good time, guys, and Newcastle United fans. Forget too much about results. Have a little mulled wine and a mince pie, and we'll see you in the new year. And it'll all be downhill from there on. We'll be sliding towards safety.
In a skips and bins skip. Take care.
Take care.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's